Today we'll be discussing a shooting against 2 LA deputies and their current conditions.
Followed by a look at a potential change in TPS that may affect 300,000 immigrants.
And finally, we're committed to bringing you the news, views, and info to go on this episode of the report, Roundtable Discussion. I'm Andrea Carvajal.
And I'm Brie Eastlick.
I'm Jorge Flores.
And I'm Amanda Mendoza. As you can see, we are continuing to practice social distancing and are going to conduct our episodes via Zoom for the foreseeable future. Not be together in person, we invite you all to continue to be a part of the conversation. Follow us on Twitter @TheReportCSUF or on our Titan TV Instagram @TitanTVCSUF to keep in touch with us and view our new contents.
We begin today's episode with a pretty intense story. Last Saturday, 2 LA County Sheriff Department deputies were shot and critically injured in Compton, California. Surveillance footage shows a dark-clothed suspect walk up to the passenger side of the officer's vehicle, shooting them both multiple times in the head and face. The Sheriff's Department and a few private donors are now offering a combined $300,000 reward for any information that will lead to the arrest and conviction of the suspect. Fortunately, the injured officers now had a successful surgeries, with Sheriff Alex Villanueva calling it, quote, a miracle. Now, first of all, before we get started, we just want to say that we wish a very speedy recovery to these deputies, and our hearts are out to them and their families. Now, there's so much that happened on Saturday, and there's so much to talk about in this story, but first, let's talk about the surveillance video. We see a person who ran up to the window and fired bullets into these deputies' car. Nothing was going on. He just came up, shot, and then ran away. Now, another thing to point out is that there was a small protest outside of the hospital from the ACAB protesters, which, if anyone doesn't know, that stands for All Cops Are Bastards. Now, the police officers ended up following them down the road and arrested some of them. They also ended up arresting Josie Huang, a reporter from KCPP, and she was recording the protests and the rest of one of the protesters. And even though she identified herself as a reporter, they still arrested her. And one thing to really point out is that they stepped on her phone when she was recording, and it looked like they were trying to damage it. Now, what do you guys think? Were these arrests justified? You know, the cops stepping on the phone, it seems like they're trying to almost delete the footage that Josie was recording. What do you guys think? Is this a violation of the First Amendment?
I believe it definitely is a violation of the First Amendment. There's freedom of the press, and obviously press was there recording what's going on, and they know this. So why even step on the phone in the first place when you know, and she's calling out that she's from the press multiple times, that she's wearing a badge that literally has a press ID on it. It's just the excessive force that is used on reporters lately as well. We saw this in the CNN reporter that was on air, Omar Jimenez, in Minneapolis when the Black Lives Matter movement was going on, a protest a couple months back. And I feel like we're going to see this more and more as things get hostile between police brutality and the people.
Yes, I agree with Andrea. I do think it was a violation of the First Amendment. She has the right to the press and to videotape them as a journalist. Plus, she didn't really seem to do anything that was an immediate threat to the police officers. I didn't see her have any weapons, and she wasn't given enough time to back up. She wasn't even a part of the main protests if they were going to use that excuse. So I don't understand why they broke her phone.
Exactly. And you can see the hostility that we have nowadays in the police departments and between the people, like Andrea, you were mentioning. I completely agree that too much hostility is just making more tension between people and police departments. My question is, was it really necessary to have 6 officers arresting just one reporter? She was just doing her job. And personally, I think this just goes against your job, your workplace. You gotta do that. You gotta inform people. And when you just see so much hostility, it makes me think that the only way in which we can go further to find a solution is to be into peaceful actions. There's no need to use violence against reporters. And again, I understand that these are very difficult times, and the violence is just growing and growing more between the police departments and people, but we should be cautious and we should be conscious that they're just doing their job. I completely agree with you guys, and I think we should go further detail to see what happens to the police, but also to the reporter situation. Well, if we continue with this news, Let's go into more political views. And this is because last week, a change in temporary protected status, a form of humanitarian relief that affects over 300,000 immigrants, was announced. A federal appeal court panel ruled that the Trump administration may end TPS for immigrants from Sudan, Nicaragua, El Salvador, and Haiti. This means that immigrants who have lived and worked in the United States under TPS will eventually be deported back to their home country. The U.S. Citizenship and Immigrant Service Agency is reviewing the decision and is set to release an official decision soon. Another very heavy news that we're having today, guys. Immigration is very important. When we look into these families, we are separating two generations, immigrant parents and American children. Now, this is very important because what's going to happen to these children? What's going to happen with them if they don't have money to produce for their own making profits? What happens to their parents? Are they going to move back? Now, if we concentrate about these parents, that they are immigrants, well, they flew away from their country because they want to have better opportunities here at the United States. Now, my question is, if you find a country in which you have better opportunities, why would you move back to a country with so much hardship, right? Now, they are also employees. They are producing to that country. They are producing for our economy to grow, to American companies. So I don't see a clear reason why they just gotta move back to their country if they are helping our economy growing. So what do you think, guys? What do you think, Amanda?
Personally, I do think this was motivated by racism. There was no substantial reason to end this program, especially when there are more pressing issues such as COVID or the climate crisis that's affecting us right now. I also think it's important to note this would impact many immigrants, and apparently, quote, there was no evidentiary support, unquote. This was motivated by racism. However, I think this is a very weak argument because I think there's no evidentiary support that this isn't motivated by racism.
Yeah, I think one thing to point out too is that's not the first time that Trump has brought this up. You know, back in 2018, a district court in California halted the decision, and now it's being reversed by this new 2-to-1 vote. But one thing to point out is that the ACLU is continuing to fight for these recipients, and they're trying to protect them. And they said that in they most likely will have their protection until March. So this gives Joe Biden a chance to reverse the order. So what I'm going to say is go out and vote, because it's possible that we can really help these people by voting.
I completely agree with all of you. I mean, this is happening with the DACA ruling Supreme Court a couple months ago, and I just feel like the Trump administration is continuing to try to reverse anything that's going on while he still has 2 more months in office until we all vote. And this is very, very important, like Bree said, go out and vote because you make a difference into what these laws are trying to accomplish.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Jorge, for telling us about the TPS. Moving on to campus news, delays in financial aid has created setbacks for students at CSUF. It's been nearly a month into the semester, and for many, checks are still waiting upon arrival. In a typical semester, students have access to these funds as early as June. In the meantime, the feeling of uncertainty lingers for many CSUF students. The university's newspaper, the Daily Titan, reports that the struggle to make ends meet is resulting in a number of students dropping out or even putting graduation on hold. Well, I personally think this has been a very circumstantial situation. I don't think financial aid was predicting, quote, 700 phone calls every day, unquote. Even if they hired more staff to resolve this issue, it would have been nearly impossible to handle that many requests in a day. Fortunately, though, these things have died down a little. The Daily Titan reported that as of August 21st, there were only 300 students left to process out of 300,000. Hopefully, students are able to receive their aid very soon.
Now let's move on to some more local news. For the first time in nearly 6 months, Orange County movie theaters have been given the green light to open their doors. Theaters like the Regal Cinema at Irvine Spectrum Center were quick to capitalize on the reopening. However, this came with limitations. Regal Cinema has announced that guests will be required to wear masks and keep 2 empty seats in between parties. Concessions will be sold, but confined to a limited menu. One of the hottest films out in theaters now is Christopher Nolan's latest action drama, Tenet. Now, Orange County is one of many counties in California that's going from this purple to the red tier in California's new monitoring system that they created. Obviously, people are questioning what's open, what county. There's churches opening, theaters, salons, but where, I guess, is the question that Californians are all asking. There's these theaters that are opening, but with 2 seats in between big groups, and you have to wear masks. And obviously, these employees are taking their precautions to ensure that everyone's safe in these confined spaces. But like, what do you guys think? Would you go to a movie theater? Is this smart or health-wise? We're still in a pandemic.
Yeah, I already went. I went on Monday. I went to the movie theater. My boyfriend and I went, and I will say, it was dead. There was nobody there. There was only one other group in the theater with us. But when we walked into the lobby, everyone had their face masks on, but it was only workers in there. Me and him were the only 2 in the lobby besides the workers. So I think people are honestly scared of going out and go to the movie theaters because they think, well, all these other people are going to be in there. We're all going to be breathing, who knows what's going to be going around. But I think that if you go, you're not really going to see anyone else. So how about you guys? Are you going to go?
I will still go because I'm happy, and personally, I just want to go out of my place for at least one time in which we can just have these conversations and hangouts outside of your own place. That's great. However, that's also the reason why a lot of movies, they are going to have this transition into digital systems, into our digital platforms. We all know that Netflix and Disney Plus, for example, they are really taking advantage from this. So I won't expect a lot of really good high expectations from the movie theaters to gain profits this semester. I think that they know that there are going to be low gains this semester, but that's a process. They just got to start reopening. They need to make people to feel safe, that it's good to go outside with the protocols, but it's a process. So probably, I think like in 3 or 4 months, maybe we're going to see more customers in theaters. What do you think, Amanda?
Well, I personally think that movie theaters are delaying the inevitable. Last weekend, I actually watched Mulan on Disney Plus for only $30. And before, when I went to the movie theaters with me and my family of 5, it would cost us about $50 to attend if you're not including snacks. However, now that these movies are coming out on streaming services, then the price is only about $30. And I think movie theaters realize that this is a threat. So they're trying to open up as quickly as possible.
I see that. I think the only thing to point out though is I would have loved to watch Mulan. I think I'm going to wait though until December when it comes out for free, and I hope that, it lives up to the hype. But I don't think that watching a movie theater like in your home, it gives the same experience. So I think that these theaters are really relying on people to realize that and think, they're going to want to come, they're going to want to see it on the big screen, get the snacks. And I really hope that people continue to go to the theaters, once they feel it's safe for them to do so.
Really great point, guys. I definitely agree. And with that, that's all the time we have today on the report Roundtable Discussion. Have a safe week, everyone, and stay tuned for more news, views, and info. I'm Andrea Carvajal.
I'm Jorge Flores.
I'm Amanda Mendoza.
And I'm Brie Eastlick. And as always, stay fresh, Fullerton.